welcome to another episode of RNR Talks. So, today I have with me Ishita Iyer. She's a mental health professional and an entrepreneur. In today's episode, we are going to talk about issues related to women, how work culture, juggling life affects women's mental health. So, let's hear it from her. Hi, Ishita. Welcome to my show, RNR Talks.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, let's begin with speaking about how did you choose to be a mental health professional?
My first exposure to mental health came from when I moved to India. I'd actually come down from Africa, as you are aware, for a surgery. And a surgeon who's very close to me personally actually would always sit me down for a good 1.5 hours and just talk to me, make me feel better and less emotional and less vulnerable, if I should say, about the whole situation. While, of course, I had to end up, taking his assistance for other medical purposes, but the pain and the journey of the pain was a little more easier. So that was my first exposure to mental health per se. He was a surgeon. He's still alive, so he would always give me books on the mind. He would always do something like that that would make me realize that there are a lot of things that are in the mind, and the mind plays a huge role when it comes to a lot of things in your life. So that was my first interaction. Of course, I went through a journey and difficulties like most of us do. But at that point, I was looking at something more. I needed something a little more that would keep me grounded, that would help me not move into other directions. And I was also looking at a career that could help me live in India, because I
Right,
wasn't going to go back to Zambia, where I come
right.
from. So that point in time, I started taking a lot of short courses that that were offered on various aspects of mental health, various aspects of nutrition, and all of that, which eventually led me to study, take up psychology as a full blown degree, which I eventually did and passed um, a few years later while
Right.
I was working. So in the meantime, I was independently also working. I was taking cases, and I can't say I was just enjoying myself, but I think in helping others, I also ended up helping myself. So that is how my journey started. Though I've significantly, cut down my practice, but that is how it started off for me.
So, how do you see this? I mean, societal expectations in not as per our generation. How do you think it affects the mental health of women?
When you're talking about mental health of women in general, and I would take into consideration not just our generation, the generation after us, the generation a little before us. We are taking into consideration a lot their physical health as well, that impacts their mental health, because as women we come with a lot more hormones. We come with cycles that impact our health significantly, that in turn also impact our moods. They impact the way we work. I still feel, to a large extent, the work culture across industries, a lot of it is still made for men to kind of thrive.
So yeah, so there's no change to it,
there
or
is there is significant amount of change, but in when you're talking about societal pressures per se, I feel a lot of the pressures are coming from the personal side,
right,
right? And a lot of the pressures actually come from women itself, women from the previous generation or from the same generation as well, because we have become a bit too comfortable and used to just judging women for anything and everything. And I mean, we live in a society that believes that women can do everything. While they may be able to do everything, there will come a point where they crash, and our bodies are not developed to do so much. We have to be on par with trends. We have to look a certain way, we have to behave a certain way, we have to deal with marriage, we have to deal with aging parents in our generation, we have to deal with children if we have, yet be up to date with numbers, number crunch, achieve great heights. There's something that Indra Nui actually very beautifully, has said in one of her interviews, and I keep watching that. Um, the biological clock, and we women have a biological clock. The biological clock of women and the career clock of women is always in conflict with each other, because when we are trying to go up career wise, we are also running against time with our age, because especially if you haven't chosen to have a child or you don't have a child, you're constantly running around trying to beat against odds, and we're human beings at the end of the day, right?
Right.
So I feel the pressures come more from women, and close quarters for that matter, especially from family and friends, which I feel significantly need to change.
So, do you think in the next generation, maybe our next generation that will come of women, uh, there will be a better balance or not?
I think it could be better. Reason being, there's a lot more awareness today.
But don't you think that the whole women empowerment thing, where we keep saying we can do everything, we can do everything, we can do everything, this will go and sit in the head of the next generation women,
So
making them
no,
all the more
I
dominant?
agree, but I think women of today are also understanding that it's okay to not do everything. You need to, a lot of this is my observation, and I might be 100% wrong. A lot of women today are dealing with a lot more gynec disorders. Why? Because we are not in our feminine, we are not operating from our feminine, right? We are, our bodies are developed and made in a way that we need to take rest, not as reward. But I honestly feel I have a lot more hopes from the next generation, because they are a lot more aware. I think they will be better equipped, provided technology is not misused, because that also plays a significant impact on our mental health and the way we perceive ourselves. All the more with women, because today we have all kinds of editing tools, we have everything available to make us feel less than. We don't even need someone from close quarters, right? We have enough trolls to kind of do whatever they do. So I feel, if I think the onus is on us, if we give the women, the next generation of women better tools, they would be able to navigate the real world a lot better. And when, see, women empowerment is not saying that women should do everything and women are the best and we are number one and all of that. That's definitely not what I believe. Women empowerment is actually talking about equal opportunities, right? If you're talking today, a lot of women are in the workforce. Many women work, right? Or many, I'm saying many because a lot of women choose to not work for whatever reasons. So if you're bringing food on the table, also you're expecting women to do, come and emotionally hold the family also together, do the housework also, cook also. Somewhere you need to, if she is sharing 50% of the load, you also need to equally be able to kind of put in your 50, other 50%. So when it comes to women empowerment, I think we need to make the men also understand that it's not limited to just,
Right.
it's not just limited to money, it's not just limited to power and position. There are a lot of other things. Don't limit yourself to just, in the name of women empowerment, don't just limit yourself to, career growth and all of that. There's a lot more to life.
So, so I have one very interesting thought behind this. See, in yesteryears, women used to be the driving force at home, not at work, but at home. So they would still be the dominant power. And women in today's generation probably can't call them dominant force at home because they are not at home only. So now we talk about equality and we talk about equal being equal at home. So now you're not the dominant force. However, uh, who, as per watching two generations, whom do you think has more mental health issues creeping in? I mean, that dominant woman who, probably वो had all the power in the house. You know, जैसे we say कि एक पत्ता भी नहीं हिल सकता without her. And most of
The
India,
matriarch.
yeah, and lot of, even I think Gujarat also, a lot of houses or tribal areas or probably small uh, areas, they practice this. I mean, there also woman is dominant power. I have seen in UP also, after a certain age, probably she's been kept under the thumb for a very long period of time, and then as the women goes in her 40s and 50s, and probably her two children get married or something like that, she eventually becomes dominant power. Similar is in the in Calcutta, or you say Bengal side. So there is South also has women dominance. So so whom do you think? What is your judgment? I mean, who? Uh, because we recognize mental health issues right now, but what do you think? I mean, uh, where is the balance? Is this like is there a balance, or is this something new that our next generations need to explore, or is there loneliness that is creeping in because there is too much that women are taking up, or probably there's inflow of money which was always, maybe that money was given to them by legacy and now it is being owed. So what is your opinion?
Loneliness was always there. And if you're talking about loneliness in women, it was there always, even in joint families and in the generation before us. But uh, it was it was somehow, it was covered in ways that we probably couldn't recognize. However, it's important to understand that trauma is passed on through generations, right? What our grandmothers or grandparents, and see, circumstances and world was at a very different stage at all these periods, right? So if we are talking about trauma being passed through the generations, I feel our generation has taken a severe hit there. And I feel like our generation has at this point in time struggled quite a bit, because we are taking the hit of what the previous generations weren't able to work on. So now there's an overload. I often tell people that some there are a lot of issues that are so, if I talk about patriarchy and matriarchy, there are so many issues that are so deeply rooted in patriarchy, we cannot single-handedly just kind of change that. There are certain things that are considered the norm, and they will continue being that until a new phase or until a new time comes. And understanding that or embracing that in itself becomes very, very debilitating for a lot of people, because you know see, the way, I believe the way the western world is able to understand mental health, in India it's very different. Because situations, their family systems, they are very different than the family systems that we have in India or Asia, for that matter, right? We are a lot more a lot of emphasis is given on family, staying together, doing things together, and so that comes with its own set of challenges. So to answer your question, I feel like our generation is having a lot of mental health issues today. And mental health is not something that, see, it's not just being anxious or it's not just being depressed. It is a serious problem that erodes you on a daily basis until you don't seek help. And it's not just limited to therapy, it's not it's everything together. It's your lifestyle, there are multiple facets to it. So yeah, I feel like our generation is at this point in time taking quite a bit of a hit, because there was no way the previous generations were able to process it. Because previously, if you look in our mother's generation or anything like that, if you say that I'm going for therapy, or I'm going to a psychiatrist, or I'm going to a psychologist, people would just look at you like that, saying,
Yeah.
are you crazy or something? But you're if you don't, now people realize that if you don't seek help, now it can be help on a spiritual level, it can be some, a psychiatric medicine, it can be anything that is comfortable for you. You should seek help, because we are already in a system that is pushing us to do everything alone,
Right.
right?
Right.
And as human beings, we are not devised
To
to
work
be, yeah, we
alone.
can. What did COVID do to us? We know what isolation does to us, right? That is when you literally go crazy. So yeah, so that is what I would.
Post COVID scenario mein, I'm sure you must have had many cases where there must be a lot of issues related to returning back to work life for all, I mean, entrepreneurs, and there must be a lot of cases of burnout. Must be a lot of cases of reluctancy to get back to office life or routine life. So, how have you dealt with it, or what are the common trends that you have noticed?
See, COVID in general impacted everybody very differently, because everyone had their own unique situation to deal with. One of the most common issues post COVID has been a lot of brain fog, which of course is something that you need to speak to your general practitioner and kind of deal with. But that brain fog does impact you on multiple other levels when you're trying to do, when you're trying to work, or when you're trying to do anything that requires a little more attention. So brain fog, was one, like immediately post COVID, especially post the second wave. That was very common. Loneliness, extreme loneliness, was a very very common issue. Was, that was across all generations. That was across all genders, and in fact across all ages. Because see, most of us have a all of us have had a very set life, right? You go to school or you go to work, you're out of the house for X number of hours. Now, suddenly, everyone is forced to be inside the house. So, a lot of us didn't know how to deal with each other's. We didn't know only how to deal with each other when we were all living together. A lot of loneliness increased because it impacted relationships drastically. Now, if you were in a relationship with, let's say you're not married and you're in a relationship with someone who lives on the other end of town, you were of course not allowed to meet, right? We are beings that thrive on senses, and touch is one physical sense. Having some form of physical proximity is very important to us. Not having touch of any form is a big trauma even to children. We it That's a different topic altogether. Children who are not touched enough, or if you're not touched in the right way as a child while growing up, it impacts you mentally. So we didn't have any physical interaction or closeness with a lot of our loved ones,
Right.
right? So that really really messed people up mentally. And post COVID, lonely again, on the point of loneliness, a lot of people lost their loved ones.
Right.
So that, or they had, if someone had COVID, and they had other health conditions also, they had to deal with extreme fear of loss, or deal with grief. Grief was also a very big problem, and it still continues to be a problem because the damage has been so grave and so permanent. People lost their jobs, right? So financial trauma is a very big trauma. Now people just lost their jobs rampantly because the companies couldn't do anything. right? We have seen so many things closed down. Cinemas, okay,
Yeah.
cinemas have closed down.
Hotels, cinemas.
Hotels, people in the hospitality sector were badly affected. People in the travel sector were badly affected. So there was a lot of financial trauma that that came with it. And how much can you do online? So compassion fatigue was also another big problem with a lot of caregivers, healthcare givers, and therapists alike, including me, because we didn't know how. We were also not prepared for this. We
Right.
were also going through our own issues, right? We were dealing with senior citizens at home. We were dealing with our own issues at home, and then there's an overload of people who don't know how to deal with it. So it was utter chaos. So grief and loneliness has also been a big thing that continues to be a problem till now. And I think it is only it's now 2 years post COVID. I think people are now recovering their loss, or on their road to recovery, if I should say, post COVID now.
Right.
So that has led, so now when you are consistently sick, let's say you have COVID, it impacts some organ. Being constantly sick also messes with your head, because you're not able to go to work properly. Most of us complain of fatigue. Most of us complain of things that we were able to do, accomplish post before COVID. We are not able to accomplish now,
Wow.
right? Previously, I can say this for myself. Previously, I would travel, with via public transport, very confidently. I am working on my confidence even
Yeah, I
now.
completely agree with this that public transport confidence is completely gone.
Like if you're traveling by metro and local trains in Mumbai today, it's a very different scenario. So that, this is me. But there are people who are still struggling with it. A lot of people complained
No,
of.
I am also an example of it. I can't travel. I am not. I think I must have just traveled twice or thrice by local train in the past 4.5 years.
There were women who I know were pregnant and had COVID. So you can imagine the trauma that that person is going through. I have COVID, and I have to deliver a child. Now imagine the impact. So I think this, we are talking about women. Now coming to men have equally, it's hit them equally, because if you were the sole bread earner of the family and you have, I'll give an example of someone who I know in the building I stay in, right? A man who was in the hospitality sector. He had taken loans. He had a home loan. He had taken loans for his company. He had to fire staff to begin with. He had to pay salaries. He had to pay up for loans. He had to pay the school fees. He had to think of providing for the family. He has come up to me and told me, he's like, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. I am getting thoughts I shouldn't. So it impacted people in different ways, and it took time to recoup. So I mean, this is, I think we're still dealing with post COVID situations. And I tell men and women alike today who talk about mental health challenges, that if you need to take into account that all of us lost 2.5 years of our
Right.
lives.
True.
And you need to be a little more kinder to yourself for that, right? Because if you're alive today, dealing with COVID, dealing with loss, and loss to what degree? You're constantly seeing pain, trauma, death 24 hours up. You open your phone, you see that. You open the news,
You
you
say
see
that.
that. You're talking about it. They reached a stage of fear psychosis also. Like we
Okay.
were obsessive, everyone was obsessively cleaning and spraying and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. It impacts you, right? Because you're constantly talking about trauma, you're constantly dealing with it.
So, amongst all of this, we spoke about people who probably understand, who come to you and tell you that I'm not feeling good or something's wrong with me. Can there be people let's not talk only about corporates or people who are working. Like, can there be common people also, like women just being homemakers, or simple women at home? Also, can there be those people also who might have been affected and might be in severe depression, but they wouldn't know? What are the
100%.
signs?
100%. I'll I mean, you're talking about just homemakers, you're talking about, other situations. We also need to take into account the support staff that we have, the ones who probably come to our house, to clean our house and stuff like that, or our drivers, taxi drivers for that matter, because even that sector was significantly impacted. People literally had nothing to, they were the worst affected.
Right.
So, I want to add here that mental health conditions set in from the they can set in from the tender age of 5,
Okay.
right? It's not, well, that is a different topic altogether, because in that situation you need to take into account how parents are raising the child, what the situations are at home, what is so unique in that situation that you need to kind of help a child. But some of the very common symptoms of mental health challenges are your moods. There's a significant shift in moods. You're very, very low, you're drained, right? And it's visible. You are irritable, you're struggling with focus, right?
Hmm.
You seem to have some sort of memory loss. Now, I'll come to the other side of it, on the physical aspect of it, a little later, because I consider mental health brain health. It's not just all in the mind. The physical body and your brain also plays a large role. Your Another significant change you may find in people is the way they eat. They may either eat too much or they may eat too less. You may find people eating things that they were not before, right? You may find people giving up foods that they really, really liked before. There's just and they themselves don't
It's
realize
just a
until,
trigger.
yeah, until someone points it
Is it
out to
even
them.
possible that someone might just be having a normal routine, but in that normal routine there is no enthusiasm? Is that also sign of
No, those symptoms must last a couple of weeks.
oh, so that's what I'm saying. There are so many families that, so there are a couple of families that we see post COVID where they are living a normal life. They are sending their kids to school. They are going to office. But we see as a family, they are just living mechanically.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big
And
sign.
this is a very common thing that we see in mostly in our friend circle, in a
Yeah,
lot of families where we see is they live a very mechanical life like a zombie. I mean, they
yeah.
will get up in the morning, they will just do their stuff. If there's husband and wife, they'll go to office, they'll come back, and they won't really have they don't really have a life. I mean, life inside the house or between the couple, or for whatever reasons, even though they have had a COVID child, or probably they're, it's it's very empty.
So let me add to this. This is a little bit of a misconception. People do not need to necessarily have big problems and big discords, or something like what you just mentioned. Someone can have absolutely everything and still feel empty inside.
Right.
From outside you feel this person is doing very well financially, great family, has support, has friends, but still is struggling inside, for whatever reasons they might be. And sometimes they know that if they are going to voice it out, it's going to, either people are going to tell them, just come out of it, just get out of it. But it's, hello, it's not you who's support, you're not dealing with it. How
Right.
you deal with something is going to be very different from how someone else is going to deal with it,
Right.
right? So that is one big misconception people have. And I feel men tend to suppress this a lot more. In fact, in the later years of life, especially post retirement and all of that, 70 to 75% of suicides or attempts or thoughts a lot of times come from men,
Right.
especially in the society that we live in, that we have kind of made this big, men are you're supposed to man up and be man enough and all of that. I don't want to get into the other side of what there's another side to it also, right? That men tend to kind of be aggressive, and they kind of I mean, they're unbothered, they're emotionally unavailable. That's a completely different thing that we're talking about. But if you're looking at the crux of it, it's because they are taught from a very young age not to express themselves. Now,
Okay.
women in general, we look eye to eye, right? If I'm feeling down or if you're feeling down, we'll ask each other, hey, what's wrong? Talk to me. We'll break down and we'll talk it out. Men are not taught to do that. And that comes up in various ways, that then seeps into your relationships, that also seeps into your work. A lot of these men are high achievers.
Okay.
They will be at the top of their game, but hollow inside.
Right.
So yes, these are, people might be living a mechanical life and all of that. Yes, that is true to one extent, but there's also, see, mental health is not black and white. There are a lot of gray areas. It's, crying in bed and just not wanting to get out of bed. Yes, that's a symptom, but not everyone does that.
Right.
Right? There are people who would like to do that, or want to do that because their body is telling them to, but they don't have the liberty or the freedom to do that because they have to put food on the plate. They have responsibilities.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're not going through something. That is why people keep saying today, don't just say anything randomly, because you don't know the battle this person
Yeah.
is fighting inside.
So we spoke about the triggers of mental health. So what is that can be done to I wouldn't say help, but I would say what routines can be adopted or what can be done, to identify, or even if you are as a person you recognize that okay, I'm going into some kind of, there must be some self care regime or something that can at least be on your own level that could be started to be done. So what do you suggest?
See, when you're going through a dark or a low, I can't even call this a phase, when you're going through something that's severe, you may not have the mental bandwidth, even though you know that I should do all of this, that I should look after myself a little more. I should take myself to somebody. I should speak to somebody, a professional or anything that's convenient to me. You're not in that space to do that at that point in time. So in that situation, what can be done? If, let's say, your loved one, your spouse, your family member, like a parent or a friend, a close friend or someone, is recognizing that this person is not behaving the way they used to, or there's some significant changes in the way they have been, and something is significantly wrong. All the more if you're a friend that is aware that this person, you might be aware of the special circumstances that they might be going through in their personal or their professional life. The first thing to do is ask them if they have gone to a professional or have considered taking professional help. And professional help can mean a psychiatric evaluation. Now, psychiatric evaluation is not something that you do only because there's some great big violent problem that someone is behaving I mean, that's not the behavior. So it can, you can ask that first. Ask that first. If that person has already gone for that, and if they are in, encourage them to definitely talk to somebody. It can be a counselor, it can be someone else that they're a lot more comfortable with, it can be some spiritual guru, whatever is comfortable for them, that allows them to talk about what they're dealing with without being judged.
So you mean to
To
say
begin
that
with, this is
the
to begin with.
window doesn't close if you don't go to a psychiatrist. There is still scope.
There is still scope. It's ideal you go for a evaluation, or it's ideal you speak to your general practitioner also. It is ideal, right? If you feel that it's something that you're not able to deal with, you're not able to understand,
Right.
and you might be put on medication if required, but this is only one side of it, right? Now let's say you are choosing not to, or you don't want to go to a psychiatrist, or you feel that you have always been a very spiritual person or a religious person, and you know how to deal with it, or you think you have the tools to deal with it. I would still recommend speaking to someone. As I said, it can be a counselor, it can be a spiritual guru, it can be someone who will give you a non-judgmental perspective, who will not dismiss what you're feeling. Because sometimes I feel a lot of us tend to dismiss what the other person is feeling.
Right.
Don't think like this. Array, but there is something severe that I'm dealing with. I might have gone through a surgery, I might have done this, or I might have I might have lost a parent. It can be anything. It's a very range of situation, right? So don't just say that you should not feel this way. It's already this much time, why are you feeling this way? Don't say all of that. That is one part of the care that caregivers need to give, because that plays a significant role. You can take care of yourself, right? Meditation and all of that comes at a very later stage,
Yeah,
but
because you can't
you
focus only.
can't
How can you
you
meditate?
can't see, meditation is not for everybody. And I'm saying this as someone who does meditate once in a while, and I used to often, and I try to, but it's not for everybody. Not when they're dealing with some life threatening situations, right? At that point you need someone to just sit you down and just empty yourself, right? Sometimes all you need is to tell someone, what, I'm there. So care is very important from people close to you. That is one aspect. Another aspect of mental health that I strongly speak about is your lifestyle. You need to check if you have certain vitamin deficiencies, vitamin D3, vitamin B12. Your all the more if you're a vegetarian. Do you have any other issues like thyroid, PCOS, or are you going through menopause? If you're a man, if these apply to both men and women, right? Things like thyroid and other physical health conditions. You need to make sure you are doing a regular health checkup, because vitamin D deficiencies and a lot of vitamin and mineral deficiencies aggravate mental health conditions.
No.
Post COVID, all of us are largely inside the house,
Right.
right? A lot of us have been, especially in our parents' generation, they used to go out a lot more when it came to work and a lot of other things. And the kind of food they ate was also a lot more purer, if I should say. So that the kind of food that we are putting inside of us is is going to be one of the key components of self care that we ourselves need to look after.
Got it.
We unfortunately cannot eliminate all the stresses of our lives at this point in time, right? We cannot just sit at home and say, in many situations, we not everyone has the liberty to just sit at home and do nothing, even if we want to. And sometimes we should give ourselves that break before the body breaks us down. But you need to take care of the fact that every year or every 6 months, I need to take the initiative to make sure all these parameters are in check.
Check.
So that is very crucial to self care. Self care doesn't need to break the bank.
Yeah, that's true.
You can go on holidays. Yes, that's important. You can take breaks. You can go to nice restaurants. You can do a fancy mani pedi. You should invest in your, physical well-being and your looks. But equally, equally do things that ground you. It can be taking a cooking class. It can be going for a pottery class. It can be going
Something
for
that you enjoy.
something that you enjoy, something that is new also.
Right.
If you don't, if you feel that you're going through a very financially difficult time and you can't do that also, just do very basic things at home. No, if you haven't had, like, let's say, a nimbu pani for a very long time, start with that. Start rewarding yourself a little more. That is also important, because that will trigger the reward center in the brain, right? You are constantly giving, you constantly have to do things for others. Do a little bit
More for yourself.
do a little bit for yourself. Prioritize yourself. If you know you're diabetic, or if you know you have certain health conditions, choose to eat first for your health. Let people eat whenever they have to.
Very difficult in an Indian scenario.
Very difficult in an Indian scenario. But there's also another side to this today, that there is a part that likes eating together, but there's also another part that eats in total isolation.
However, still, like I said, in
There
an
needs to
Indian
be a balance. Yeah,
in
it's
an Indian society concept, eating separately or eating
in large
before,
parts. Yeah,
for especially for women, is like the most. Even if they, especially mostly women nowadays are gestinal, gestinal converts into diabetes. I mean, post pregnancy or post baby. But then there are a lot of societal issues. I mean, you can't eat before the men in your house eat, or whatever. I mean, the family members
that
eat.
is
Maybe
still,
it's not
yeah,
the
yeah,
men,
yeah, yeah.
but
And this I've seen in a lot of if you're talking only about women, a lot of women have to come home from work,
cook and then
eat.
eat.
No, feed and then eat, which they unfortunately eat alone. So somewhere you need to find a balance. Somewhere you need to prioritize yourself, at least somewhere, without feeling guilty. There's also another problem, right? A lot of us feel guilty for putting ourselves first. So I think that guilt needs to go, and the only way to do that is doing a little more for yourself. See, a lot of these issues are very unique and subjective to everyone's family and everyone's life.
Right.
In some families, eating alone is actually the norm. In some families, it's not. In some families, people who eat alone and in isolation all the time actually have issues, because it's traumatic for them. Because eating together is considered, it actually is a bonding exercise.
Right.
But for a lot of people, there are more fights that happen on the dining table, because everyone is together. So that is traumatic for them. So you need to navigate what works for you and what doesn't. Put in at least some form of exercise can be something as simple as a walk,
Okay.
because that, and sometimes you may not be able to do that, but um keep it basic. Not everyone has to, I mean, yoga, gym, of course everyone knows that it's important, but sometimes you can't get yourself to do that much also. So if that is the case, just walk in the house. If you can't, if you're not in the mood to even go out, and you're just done, you don't want to face anybody, walk in the house. Walk 5 to 10 minutes, especially if you're diabetic, especially if you have health issues. Walk 5 minutes in the house itself every few hours. That's
Calms
also enough.
down. Calms you down.
It does. If breathing exercises, there are a lot of things that don't necessarily require something big,
Right.
You can do these things if you're choosing, for whatever reason you are, not to seek professional help. I think a benefit that our generation has is we have a lot of good people around us. Our generation has grown up with a lot of um,
Awareness and a
awareness
lot of
and a lot of,
understanding.
yeah, and a lot of bonding,
Right.
right? So you do have friends who you can talk to, and I think you should keep those friends close. You don't need to talk every day.
But then there is also a pattern that I am recognizing. Uh, this is a pattern that I've recognized amongst a lot of people who have frequent job changes or probably get a job change post their layoffs or whatever reason. This is post COVID. Number one thing in their pattern is they have a lot of manipulation creeps in. Number two is
They are
they
manipulative or people manipulate them.
no, they are manipulative. I mean, they would probably choose and tell something to someone and probably choose and tell something to someone else. It's a pattern. I mean, I've seen a lot of people following that. Secondly, like you said, you mentioned the bond. So then the even I mean the bond that you have created, probably if you start manipulating that person itself. So here what I realize with this is, I mean, they eventually, I don't think so, do it out of understanding that it's manipulation. So is this also sign? I mean, maybe because the job makes you so insecure, or changing jobs makes you so insecure, and self judgment.
Yeah, these are multiple things. When you're talking about a person who's manipulative, it's not something that happens suddenly. This is something that, their insecurities, whether they are men or women, their insecurities of themselves as people make them very not just insecure about themselves, but insecure about the position they hold, not just professionally but even personally. And in today's day and age, it's increasing a little more because there's so many. Okay, yes, there are a lot of things. People are losing jobs. People, not everyone is doing well, in let's say financially, or they may not be doing well career wise. But there's also another side to it. A lot of people are doing very well as well. They have somehow managed to navigate, and been able to move ahead. And I think sometimes a lot of these people forget that everyone has a life journey of their own, which is different. And this, now coming to friendships, or coming to relationships in general, I think we need to, I think, accept the concept in with today's world is that it can come with an expiry date.
Right.
It does. Not because something might have significantly gone wrong, but there might be a reason that everyone is on a different path.
Thresholds have become
Thresholds
comparatively
have
have
become
become
different,
different.
priorities have
Have
become
become different.
different. Someone might be significantly dealing with something in their lives, and the other person may not. They may not want to be a part of it for whatever reasons, and that does lead to cracks. Someone might be dealing with a mental health issue. They might be dealing with something that may be a lot more easier for you to deal with, but maybe there might be a misunderstanding that, oh, I was able to deal with it, so why isn't she able to deal with it?
Right. Right.
So then one person feels manipulated. When the other person shuts down, the other person feels manipulated. So this is, I'm not talking about manipulative behavior here. I'm talking about the other part that you asked. Relationships have become a lot more fickle. I think also people are now understanding the concept of boundaries,
Yeah.
right? We cannot just end up saying anything to anybody and expect them not to feel, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, everyone is going through a battle of their own, which you cannot, and you cannot even be present, or you don't need to talk all the time.
Right.
Now when it comes to pure manipulative behaviors, now you're talking, you need, if we bring the aspect of narcissistic personalities and all of that, that has also become a lot more rampant, right? Manipulative behaviors often come very earlier on. and for various reasons, the child might have been bullied, the child might have gone through xyz, or the child might have been used to getting something all the time, that they may not be able to get that anymore. That may be making them a lot more insecure, so they have this facade around them. So there are a lot of layers to this, but yes, it has become increasingly common to manipulate your way to make yourself feel powerful. And it's a lot, I find this a lot more. Women are equally manipulative, but it's more visible in a lot of men, because for men the thing is their entire identity is around their work. Women still come back home and they have an identity in a social circle, in the family circle, around their children and everything. For men it's largely their work.
That's their.
That is, and in certain situations, if you have to get your way, you just have to get your way. But unfortunately, I feel a lot of people are not able to disconnect from that.
Right.
And that seeps into their personal relationships, which significantly impacts your personal relationships. That can lead to a lot of discord. If it's with a spouse, it can lead to a divorce. If it's with parents, it can lead to moving out, which is still a concept that we are getting used to in the country.
Right.
So if you feel like this person is being too manipulative, you need to draw your line.
Right.
And if you see, boundaries is when we talk about boundaries, we are not in a society where we can just disconnect with everybody.
Exactly. That's the
We
problem.
can't, right? The Western world
Yeah.
can still just have boundaries and not go to this social thing. Bhai, idhar nahi chalta hai aisa, right? And it's so you need to be very very conscious about how much you share, what you share, with
Self
whom you
boundaries.
yeah, this is self boundaries. With whom you share, why you share.
Right. So, along with these topics, there's also very intriguing topic that is on nowadays is women being financially stable. So, there are a lot of there are a lot of things related with it. Women being financially stable uh, gives them a lot of power. Women being financially stable also makes them feel on an upper hand. Women not getting married till the age of 35, uh, that's a very major that we are seeing. So on in your sense, as a mental health practitioner, how do you see this? Do a lot of women who are financially stable, do they have separate set of issues?
Yes, they do. Now the thing is, now if you're talking about financial stability, we have been raised as a generation of educated women. With education, you're empowering a woman to make her own decisions, have her own opinion. Today, no woman would want to be subjugated like previous generations without opinion. Every woman who has at least done her 12th and at least has that awareness today will come with opinions of her own. Now, when it comes to women who are doing well very financially, I feel a huge problem is, and especially if I don't want to compare men and women, but I feel like um, our parents educated us, made us independent to a level where we have become hyper independent, which is a trauma response. We are capable of literally doing everything on our own, including bringing money to the table, including earning.
But is it good or is it bad?
It is good and bad, because if we have brought up women like this, have we raised sons to deal with these empowered women? No,
No.
which is a big problem almost everywhere. I'm not questioning any parents' upbringing, but I'm saying these are real issues, right? Because this is also where insecurity, in the previous question that you asked me, this is where insecurity also creeps in. This is where manipulation kind of creeps in, because people don't know how to deal with women who know how to deal with everything. Now, it is good because women cannot be manipulated or they cannot be subjugated in a lot, like in a lot of times earlier. They had no voice of their own. They could not leave and they could not do anything of their own, which made them pretty much jailed and chained to their circumstances, deal with turmoil, deal with abuse, deal with mental health, and you name it, right? So in that way, you cannot fool women today, which is good.
Right.
But the flip side to this is most of us have become women or men that we wanted to marry. This is for a lot of unmarried women, because men are today, a lot of men are choosing um not to play their role. When it I feel like the generation before us, the men were much more um now
This
there
is
is,
a very common
yeah,
opinion that I
yeah,
have from
yeah.
many other people also, which says that the previous generation men were more probably, I mean, I would say they would be more focused in the house, or probably they were more helping. Rather, it's the reverse.
I feel that way too, though not everywhere, but I feel
No,
somewhere
it's
they,
a very common opinion.
like, a lot of men in the previous generation were not emotionally available. They felt like they were putting food on
But
the
then
table,
those
so it was
who,
done.
but they were more involved in the
They
house.
were a lot more involved. A lot of women our age still highly depend on their fathers for financial suggestions, and rightly so. And I feel like those fathers have also done a great job in putting us where we are today. So in a lot of ways, I feel our fathers were very a lot more easier to trust than a lot of men today. And I'm not saying this applies to everybody.
So, do you think the generation post? So, probably this has happened in the last 15 years. Do you think the generation post the suppose the daughters that we raise and the sons we raise, would it be easier for them in future? I think it would be easier
It
for
would
them.
be easier provided both the parents are around the child. Because now you're seeing an upward trend of women just having raising a child on their own,
Which is also not good.
which is also not good. And it can be good if the marriage is not working. You rather have a child who is happy with a single parent than a child who's constantly traumatized and unhappy with both parents who are squabbling all the time. But the other flip side to this problem is it has made women extremely lonely. It has made a lot of us very masculine, because we often have no choice but to do everything on our own. And there are times when you can do it all, but you don't want to. You want, as you know, as a human being, you want that support.
Right.
That is a little beyond your parents. That is a little beyond your friends. You want someone who you can call your own. So this is a major problem, I feel, and it's a varied problem. There's two sides to this, which almost all women today, married, unmarried, with a child, without a child, are dealing with. And this is also why I feel a lot of women are choosing not to have children, is because they you they don't know if they have the bandwidth to deal with another responsibility
Right.
when you don't know how things are panning out for you, which is why egg freezing and all of that is on the rise.
Right.
At least you have, at least if you're earning money, you're at least able to manage certain things of your own, because financial trauma is also another big issue which women in the previous generation were not able to deal with, right? I mean, they were subjugated because they didn't have the liberty to choose.
Right.
So yeah, this is
So, what's your opinion on support groups and you know, uh, do you think, or what's your opinion on when we talk about majorly what comes out from our discussion is there's a lot of loneliness which has crept in post COVID, post scenarios of a lot of women getting, which is a good thing, getting a lot of opportunities, however, which makes them more empowered, rather more dominant, more lonely. So which kind of support groups, or what should be the solution to this?
I think support groups should not be limited, or rather, support groups, mentorships, coaching, I think has very rightly taken place now. And if you see, there's more people with
Yeah,
all of those
willingly
willingly
coming ahead.
taking and giving, is because of this very same reason. Why have life coaches grown so much? Why have business coaches grown so much? Because there is so much of a need for that. Now, on a personal level, I feel like I have been able to navigate a lot of difficulties in my life, and difficulties continue, and they will, is because I have always been blessed with a great set of friends who have been there in various capacity. Right, X person is good at dealing with X situation. The other person is probably more apt to, let's say, have a more spiritual perspective about something. Someone might be able to give you a better financial perspective as a friend. Now, this is on a very friendly level. But today, if you see, a lot of more emphasis is given on networking.
Yeah,
A lot of support groups. Support groups, yes, definitely. But why? Because as human beings, we are conditioned to be together.
together.
We have been in nuclear families for such a long time. We have been isolated for such a long time. Now we are coming together because none of us live in joint families. So support groups, I think men need it a lot more today. Why? Because women generally tend to, sit together and do a lot of things together. You will often find a group of women having a chat, or, uh, pulling, someone, her girlfriend's spirit up. You don't find that in men. All the more when the man is doing well, is at a higher position, let's say he's working, he has a job, or if he's an entrepreneur. Now, when you're talking about entrepreneurship, or when you're talking about just work life in general, it does not come without failures.
Right.
I have, for a matter of fact, started businesses that have failed, that have impacted me. But I had friends of various kinds that were able to pull me out. I also joined a lot of networking events and, support groups, online and offline, that helped me gain a perspective.
Right.
Right, so I think men, especially on a higher level, I feel like they should put the ego aside a little bit, men and women, but a lot more men, and actually explore, like circles, or, close knit circles of people from the same industry, different industry.
Isn't it common? Isn't it a very common thing in the West?
It is, but in India, a lot of this is looked down on.
I mean, there they would probably go. They would probably go out for a Saturday night
Yeah.
football game, or
Yeah.
I mean, games is a culture there, so they would go to either play or see. So I think it's
So as I was saying, I feel it's important that we push more men into, you know um, joining support groups or networking events, and, going for coaching. It can be business coaching, it can be coaching related to their field, or it can be something else altogether, because they will be able to understand, and resonate when they see someone else dealing with a similar situation that they might be dealing with, right? And I think it's time to kind of break that barrier that, men don't need anybody, and, stuff like that. I feel we are a society that does get influenced by other people. So let's say you feel like you're not doing well in your career, and you see someone else doing better, and that person is willing to give you some guidance that maybe if you change this, you know maybe you'll be able to do more, not just for your business or for your work, but you'll be able to give more to your family and to yourself. I think that needs to be encouraged, and I see very few people doing it, and that really really not just helps you work wise, I think it impacts your health in general, right? Because if you're not feeling well mentally, you're not going to be, I mean, it'll eventually take a toll on your physical body as well, which will take a toll on everything else. So it is very important to have people that you can go seek and connect with in order for you to become a better human being and just do better with various aspects in your life.
So, on that note, we conclude this episode, which was a deep discussion with Ishita Iyer about mental issues, corporate that we deal in corporate lives, and post COVID mental issues, which is maybe then right now not spoken about. If you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments if you want a part two or you want to hear something else, which is a deep dive topic. So, bye. See you again in a new episode. Tata.